anyway.
Hi, everybody. I'm Neal Romanek. I'm editorial director at The Flint. The Flint is a new publication, 1 month old, actually. This week, we cover sustainability in the media and entertainment industry. And by sustainability, we mean building a better future that you want to live in, preferably one where you survive climate change, but also one where you build better ways of creating content and better ways of living, really. So check that out. We're at theflint.media. And welcome to our first session of the day, which is so you want to be in show business, getting the skills and training right. We're going to talk about training in the industry, what some of the needs are out there, what some of the opportunities are, and also what some of the great institutions that are out there now are also offering us. So I'm going to introduce our panelists, and then afterwards you guys can maybe tell us all a little bit about yourselves. But starting over here at the end, this is Sarah Winstanley, who is the head of MetFilm Futures, right? At MetFilm School.
Right.
Great. Emma Turner, who is head of film animation and future skills at Screen Skills.
Hi, everyone.
And Chris Chandler, head of media, film, and television at Ravensbourne University. And we'll start with you, Sarah. Just quickly tell us what you do at MetFilm and kind of what your remit is, and also maybe a bit about what MetFilm School is.
Yep, so MetFilm School has a base in Ealing Studios and in Leeds and also in Berlin. We primarily run BAs and MA programs for filmmaking of all descriptions. So we run MA programs in producing, directing, cine, and post, and BA programs in practical filmmaking and also acting as well. My remit covers the careers side for our students, so I look after giving students the right information, helping them with their career planning and their CVs, and finding work once they finish with the MetFilm School, and also while they're studying. We have quite a big emphasis on working while you study, so I manage all of that program.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emma Turner. Can you guys hear okay? Not too loud either. Good. I'm head of film and animation at Screen Skills. So Screen Skills is the only skills body for the screen industry that's across the whole of the UK. So we cover film, animation, unscripted, high-end TV, games, VFX, and children's. So every single element of the screen industry, and we are across all the nations and all the regions. Our job is to be with you for the whole of your career when you enter in the screen industry, whether that's what you've decided to do right at the beginning, or increasingly people transferring in from other similar or sometimes completely different industries, but with transferable skills. And then we'll be with you through your mid-career and as you progress up to senior exec by providing mentoring, bursaries, training, programs.
Ravensbourne University. We're based out in Greenwich, near the O2. Rather pleasant building, looks a little bit like a 1970s TARDIS. It's a creative university. We don't have auto engineering and nursing and so on. We just focus on creative subjects. In my area, we have film production, television, editing and post, music and sound design, and broadcast engineering, I think very interestingly in this surrounding. Elsewhere in the university we have courses in games design, user interface, animation, topics like that. So I mean, in a way doing much the same as MetFilm School, just a little bit broader. Big emphasis on working with industry, and I'm delighted to be here surrounded by industry. And a huge emphasis on employability. So the broadcast engineering course, for example, every single person who takes the course goes into work in the television industry, 100% employment rate. It's a big in-demand skills gap subject.
Great. So I'm going to, I think you kind of answered part of the question I was going to ask there, but there's so much education, I guess you could say, or so much information available now that if I want to learn Adobe Premiere, I can do that, or there are so many things online and so many things on YouTube and so many resources. What is it if I want to up my skill level in whatever it is, what does going to an organization or an institution or school offer me that I can't just pick up on my own?
I think there's lots that you could do on your own. I think one of the big benefits of going to an institution to learn formally, and there's different types of learning. There's the more sort of practical, which is, I think, what Ravensbourne and MetFilm School do. It's very hands-on, very active learning. But I think so. There's learning it formally, so it's learning things the right way to begin with. But also, it's where you can really create your first network, and you can meet other people to make your own stuff, and that's part of getting into the industry. One of the things that I love about production, my background's in TV production, is that you don't have to be an expert at any one thing. So, there's very few programs, very few films that are just made by one person. So it's a place where you can go and meet other people that someone might be really great at post, someone might be really good producing, and it's about finding your tribe, really. And that's one of the things, I think, apart from the sort of formal learning, that's one of the biggest benefits, I think, going to an institution.
I think as well, going to doing a degree course or something like that, it can future-proof your career. Mm-hmm. I would be lying if I said I could guess what the industry is going to be like in 10 years' time. We all would be. We're in a time of enormous change with virtual production and AI and various other initiatives. Rather than just learning Premiere Pro or just learning Avid, you'll be exposed to a wide range of different disciplines and activities and the workflows involved in making, whether it's live TV or it's high-end drama or feature film. We get a lot of 18-year-olds coming in to degree courses like ours who believe legitimately they want to be a cinematographer, a director, but through the course discover their passion actually lies elsewhere. Yeah. I had one young woman actually at my former institution who did a year's a gap year placement at a distributor. She was very reluctant to do it in a way because she wasn't really her thing. She came back after that year on fire to work in distribution, passionate about distribution. So that's the sort of thing you can get from a course, a formal course of study. It is that breadth of experience and that reinforcement, that future-proofing of your professional future.
And there is that you're getting sort of like a kid, you're getting pushed to try foods that you may not want to try. Eat your vegetables, you're like, hey, pretty good vegetables. Maybe that's a crazy.
But it may be the first time you come up against someone working in fashion and design, or an animator, and lots of collaboration. As you say, exactly as you say, it's where you meet your tribe, meet your team, meet your future collaborators. And who's to say that's not a games designer or an animator, or one of the many other disciplines, within Ravensbourne, within MetFilm School, and so on. Sorry.
No, not at all. And I would say what Screen Skills' job to do increasingly is pick up from where these guys hand their students over, graduates over, and then we will, generally speaking, although not exclusively, when you now know what you want, you think you want to work in production, or you want to be in the camera team, or you want to be in hair and makeup, then we have programs like Trainee Finder, and if anybody's at that stage, applications are open right now for Trainee Finder. Go on the Screen Skills website, it's high-end TV and film, Trainee Finder, and that's where you will say, I want to be in that particular team, and we take you on for a year. And we kind of act as your agents. We take no money, but we try and place you out in productions, and we train you up a bit beforehand. But what I'd say, the Screen Skills, as far as picking up absolutely about finding your tribe and network, is our industry, the screen industry, is predominantly freelance. And in that, there lies issues of, getting together with people and staying with them for a long time. So what Screen Skills will try and do is create communities within a freelance world so that you do keep increasing your network, finding new people. If you go on a training program with us, we encourage a network opportunity after that so that you can stay together. And I would just sort of pick up on what these guys have said from my own personal journey. I started in theatre and then I moved across to telly and became an exec producer in the end, is stay curious all the time. I went in as production, but the most I ever learned was when I said to the producer, not on the first day, but after a while, may I go and sit in the edit for an afternoon? Because I didn't go to film school. I learned more in that half hour watching how it's edited together to inform me back when I'm on the floor or whatever than anything. So stay curious, ask people if you can spend time watching their jobs, and that's when you're working, just keep an eye out, because you may think you want to go one way and then you see something that sets you on fire and you can move across.
Also, I think screen skills courses like ours, it will help you plan a career. So if for example, if what you really want to do is direct, almost nobody leaps in and directs day one in employment, of course. But however, I suspect, quick show of hands, who likes eating food and sleeping indoors? I mean, yeah. So you have to have a career plan which will encompass eating hot food and sleeping indoors whilst you get whilst you work towards your ultimate ambition. You know, any sector, any employment, you know, there's a journey to go on. And I think we can, between screen skills and a education provider, we can help you develop that toolkit which will help you plan and sustain a career once you get towards doing that really exciting thing. One of the big challenges, I think, I'll bow to you on this, is making that step from early career to mid-career.
Definitely, and that's predominantly, it's one of the areas we focus on the most increasingly, because it's what industry, and we're funded, Screen Skills gets all the funding to do the courses from productions paying in, or broadcasters or streamers paying in a small percentage to us to do so. We do what they ask us to do, and increasingly they're finding mid-career and mid-career leadership and management skills. And this may sound for you guys very corporate speak, but if you're an art director in animation, you are going to be leading a team, and the amount of time you're going to spend actually art directing is going to be much smaller than the time you're going to be looking after your team. So every opportunity you can to learn from good leaders, to understand somebody who's perhaps not a good leader and not want to emulate them. And the other thing is that the reason that mid-level is a real shortage is sometimes we lose people, and we lose people for the right reasons and the wrong reasons. And I think the whole industry is trying to work very hard at finding out why people move away. Now, it may be, I had 2 kids, so I get that, or it may be that one of the big problems, and I don't know if it's question 2, but we lose people and they find it very hard to get back in because there's a downturn, or the most critical thing is people being over-promoted. Then you're put in a position that you can't handle, you crash and burn, and you run away from the industry. And so I know we're going to have summing up some top tips and everything, but there's lots of things we need to fix, but as we said, it's about that mid-level care about your career. And if you've been lucky enough to go to Met School or Ravensbourne, you might already know, eventually I'd love to be a whatever it is. I didn't. I only ever looked just beyond my nose, and then just beyond my nose, but I stayed curious.
I think there's some, picking up on your point about lots of sources to learn about Avid or Premiere Pro or whatever. There are some fine courses, LinkedIn Learning and elsewhere, there are some fine courses that will teach you how to perform a function, will teach you which buttons to press to get whatever. What they won't do, which we can offer, is provide that context for pushing that button, to explain what happens next, what happens elsewhere in the value chain, how to be a good manager, what leadership actually is. I know of almost nobody in a senior role who's an arsehole. Not in film, not in television. I mean, one or two. I could name a couple of producers who, but by and large, people who are successful because they're inspirational, because they lead a team and people desperately want to work for them. They can be difficult in that they're exacting. They want things done right the first time. Hands up here, who doesn't want things done right and done right the first time. But what they're not are hard-arsed swine who will make your life a misery for the fun of it.
Sarah,
Yeah, I was going to say that, but doing a degree isn't for everybody, and there are other options. And I think Screen Skills, who are a fantastic organisation, there's other options out there. Doing a degree is expensive, particularly in London. And the cost of living, and trying to balance, other stuff around that as well. So it's not the only option, and there are lots of ways of being able to use sort of transferable skills that you might have from a previous industry or other jobs that you've had. But it's being able to still find that training and still find those arenas which are going to creatively challenge you, but also be safe places to work and inclusive and all of those things that are really important, and that you're not sort of stuck in a corner and asked to make the tea and not sharing in the rest of the sort of creative processes. And it's about being really mindful about where you're at, what you can do and what you need to do to get to the next step. And for some people that will be university, and that will be a really great training ground to do that. And for other people it'll be apprenticeships, or it might be just starting out on the ground as a runner and finding your own way, but being really mindful about the choices that you make as you go, to ensure that you're going on the path that you want to go down.
and there's I hear a lot about the skills gap, that there's a skills gap in the industry where, as you said, people are leaving jobs, or they're retiring, or they've decided to do something else, but that there are production companies out there in a variety of sectors that are looking for well-trained people to come into the industry. So it would seem like there's a lot of work out there, or that there's a lot of opportunities available for people.
Well, yes, no. We had a huge boom just before the pandemic that then all got postponed, and then all had to shoot very quickly straight after the pandemic. So there's a huge boom. People over-promoted all those problems that have... And then, of course, we've been impacted by the writers' strikes and the actors' strikes in America because, like it or not, there's a sector of our industry we are for hire by the Americans. God love them all. So, for example, children's and unscripted in the last 6 months have really struggled. Bectu, who do visit their stall as well because they're amazing, did a survey, and up to 40% of people were unemployed in those two sectors because of the writers' strike and cost of living crisis. So revenue streams were down for advertising. So it's a real roller coaster, and I don't think that's ever going to change. It's going to ebb and it's going to flow. But what I would say is anybody setting out in this industry, do look at where the gaps and shortages are. And much as you might dream, and I can be slightly rude about them because I'm married to one, of being an actor, there's 98% unemployment in acting. Sorry if I'm busting any dreams here. Try and find yourself a core career where there is a need for you, rather than being... Yes, we all want to be directors, producers, writers at the end of the day, but go into an area that will sustain you, and that isn't already flooded in the marketplace.
Yep.
I would say in addition to that, I think that's really good advice. I think one of the things that the last probably 8 months, I think has been particularly bad for the film and TV industry, the strikes, cost of living, a real commissioning slowdown by broadcasters, as well, has had a massive impact. And I think it's something like 75%, isn't it, of the freelancers in the industry are out of work currently. So it's pretty bad. But we do see this where same as any business, where it goes through changes and challenges, and then comes out the other side again. And I think really for filmmakers and production people, it's about being prepared for that and being able to be resourceful and have other portfolio working is a real thing in the freelance world, where you might have a day job maybe makes up of 3 different things potentially. So it's really about keeping, when we're talking about skills gaps, I always find it really interesting because there are some areas where there is a real demand, where there aren't enough people, for example, production accounting or location assistants. But then you sort of try and marry that with, well, there's a huge amount of people out of work. And I think there's a lot that production companies and the industry itself could do to try and help that skills gap and be able to be a bit more flexible about people moving across genre, for example, and being able to really, I guess one of the things that we probably should talk about is why those people leave, and it's not a very family-friendly world, and it can also be a very exclusive world, and one of the things that I struggle with my students is getting them to see the job opportunities, because there's a huge gap in where those roles are advertised. And if you're not on the inside, then it can be very hard to break into that. And so I think there's lots of ways that the industry itself could help plug its own skills gaps with the people that are already there and willing and passionate and trained.
Can I attempt a little bit of a historical perspective? I'm either as old as I look or way older than I look. I was first involved in the industry in the late 80s. And there was a tiny fraction, well under 100 British films made in Britain in the late 80s. The nadir of the industry, I think, was something like 50 or 55 films made in the UK. Even at the reduced post-pandemic and strike levels, there's more production activity in the UK in film and television than historically. There is more television, with a lot of the channels you see on your Freeview player making the original productions. I mean, Dave and drama and all the rest of it. The strikes will end. Sooner or later, the strikes will end, and UK production will ramp back up. Not much help at the moment, but that will happen. But we have an industry which, don't quote me on this, but I would guess is something like 5 or 10 times bigger than 40 years ago. And the cost of making high quality work, which isn't film and television, which is corporate work, which is communications work, is so much lower now that the volumes in that are very, very high. And I have friends and colleagues who've had lovely careers making corporate and marketing video. It's creative work. It can be fun. It can be very adventurous, very creative.
Because it is that you're, we've talked a little bit about that, the kind of broadcast industry and the film industry, which are these kind of, the big sort of pillars that everybody thinks about. But we're really talking about content and sort of creating video content, wherever that is. And that's, those skills that I'm developing, I could, I'll do that for my own YouTube channel or whatever business I have. Or as people have said, every business now is a video business, or every business now is a content business because of our attention economy that we live in, that you are needing to produce content all the time. So, whether it's social or corporate or, a variety of things.
Yeah, whereas once you'd have to be Rolls-Royce or Boots the Chemist to make your own in-house video, marketing video. Now, Fred's Bakery can do that, and at a quality, wherever Fred's Bakery is.
And if you have a really cool Fred's Bakery video that is, that people like on Instagram, that can get more eyeballs than potentially a TV show, because you do have the opportunity to reach out. So I guess it is that there are a lot of opportunities creatively and a lot of opportunities to create content, but it is that dance of how do I keep the lights on and keep eating, and that sort of flexibility. And I guess it is having a career in this industry. It's an art form in itself, and being able to sort of juggle these things and know when to really plug into something or when to step away from something.
Network.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because people are like, it's all deadlines, and if you have to find somebody this weekend, you're going to call the people you know.
And it's not right, but I mean, it's one of what Screen Skills, and I know these guys will do as well, is, you know, and I'm going to sound corporate again now, but diversity and inclusion is literally underpinned through everything we do, and slowly and surely the industry is changing. I mean, there's a program called, that Screen Skills does called Film Forward, and again, middle ranking people from the Black and Asian community who cannot get higher up. We take them on, again, for a year. We fully fund them on production, so we pay their wages for them to shadow on a production for a period of time to move them forward. And another thing I did, and this goes back to transferable skills, is I called it salon to screen, but it was basically taking experts who could work with black and textures, hair, and deeper skin tones out of salons, barbers, wedding makeup sessions, music videos, whatever, and train them up to come and work in our industry. It's not without its challenges. For example, some of the guys and girls that we had on the hair and makeup transfers, they were inevitably going in as trainees, trainee or assistant makeup artists. They owned their own salons, right? They went, what do you mean I'm going to be taxed at source? I haven't been taxed at source for whatever. What do you mean I have to be there all day? I've made them up. They look beautiful. I'm off home now for a kip. So, you know, it's not without its challenges, but again, if you've got a transferable skill or, you know, something else you can keep going in the sideline, production accountant, makes it sound very unsexy, but you don't need to be an accountant to be a production accountant. And my oh my, is there work out there, because the bigger the budgets, the more people in the accounts team that you need. And you're at the heart of a production. So, as I say, it's about finding those jobs that aren't necessarily super visible, that you didn't know about when you were 10 years old, but that exist in our industry, and it will just allow you to sustain.
It's one thing, I mean, Screen Skills does some excellent work here, as does an organisation called Into Film, about going into schools, explaining what jobs there are in the industry. It's not just you've got a guy or a person, let's say, with a camera, someone with a microphone, and someone telling them where to go. You know, there's people dealing with greens, there's carpenters, there's hair and makeup, all these different positions. And most kids in school don't know about it. Why should they? Most kids in school, most mummies and daddies don't, and will be quite worried if their son or daughter says, I'm going to work in the film industry in hair and makeup. We're starting to work with FE colleges to try and add that film element into their carpentry classes, into their hair and makeup classes, so that rather than getting someone who's already got their own salon, we can feed in trainees from London's diverse communities who want to be a carpenter, but think, actually, wouldn't doing that for Doctor Who be more interesting?
Yeah,
or whatever.
I think that's right, and I think, you know, anyone that does sit through the 10 minutes of credits at the end of films realises that there's, you know, hundreds of people that go into making the stuff that we watch. But I think I agree with you. There's very little education about the different options that are as equally creative, and you can be as successful financially and, you know, be fulfilled, that aren't just the director and writer and producer. There's a whole other...
I was talking about our broadcast engineering course at the start. 100% employability rate, huge demand worldwide for broadcast engineers. We recruit about 10 students a year onto that. Not because that's the limit, because no more than 10 people understand what the hell it is and want to do it. I had a conversation with the MD of a post-production house, I should probably not say which, who was saying one of his big problems is getting people who can do the engineering work on post-production, both hardware and software, because they're not coming out of engineering and computing courses. We've got Moses over there, I'm sure they would say there's a huge gap for people who can do programming
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's
Virtual
a
production
real,
systems.
and those emerging technologies
Yeah.
are going to be where there is a real skills
Yeah.
gap. Virtual production. I think there's a session later today on that. But just the whole visual effects area, it's so huge. I mean, there are very few things that you will have watched that don't have an element of visual effects. If it's good visual effects, you won't notice them, of course. But there's everything does. High-end drama has a huge amount of visual effects in it, and it always surprises me actually about the lack of knowledge about how much work there is, and that there's a whole sort of reverse infrastructure. You've got the stuff that you see shot on set, and then you've got the same process happening sort of behind the scenes in post houses and visual effects companies. And there's a huge. I think there's a huge area for growth, a huge area for education to focus on as well in terms of training.
And I would just say, yes, there is. One caveat is any work job that you can do from your home is also in danger of moving outside of the UK for that very reason. So it swings around us. But yeah, absolutely. Talking of what Interfilm do and to a certain extent Screen Skills as well. There are three groups of people if we're looking at getting everybody to understand what opportunities there are in the film industry, and that's kids, parents and carers, and teachers, and the rest will take care of itself if we can get to those people. But again, picking up on virtual production and emerging technologies, go and talk to Moses. That's one of several different systems. So because I'm Screen Skills, I'm quite agnostic about different sort of virtual production and real-time games engine technologies. But if people have got a slight bent in that area, learn to code. Go and look up all the different VFX houses there are. If you're London-based in London, try and get in the door. Teach yourself Unreal Engine. Go and check out Disguise, which they do lots of free training. Brompton, I think Brompton are on. Have you got Brompton?
There's
Tech
virtual
this afternoon?
production.
It will be a massive growth area. How it'll go, nobody knows at the moment. It's very expensive, but it will disrupt everything because it's post-production being done in pre-production, and that's.
My nephew did a degree in music, film, and television. Graduated a couple of years ago. He can use all the software. He's very good. He's an excellent technician. But he has gone to do a further degree in computer programming, in C++, Python, because it's the back end that's so important now where the gaps are. I mean, back to the 80s, security on a film with some security guards on the door of the studio and a locked van to take the film in. Now, cybersecurity, if you're making the next Bond film or the next Star Wars film, cybersecurity is a massive thing because all your footage is online. And there are a lot of people who'd like to have that. Thank you very much.
Let's open it up to you guys. We have a mic around somewhere. There's Matt with the mic. Questions. This is a chance to take advantage of this great panel and to ask any questions that you have.
Frank,
Good work.
you lift the mic up.
And go ahead and introduce yourself as well, please. Yeah.
Don't think the mic's
is it working?
Can
Shall I
we
talk?
I don't know if we can-
Keep talking.
1, 2, 1, 2. Hi, I'm Nathan. I'm actually a second year editing and post student at Ravensbourne University. And my question was, I guess, mainly for Chris. So, me being in editing and post, and then obviously you mentioning stuff about like broadcast engineering, how easy is it to like maybe look into more stuff in broadcast engineering? Like, how can I sort of...
The broadcast engineering, in my area, it's sort of the hardest science. You need to have some electronic engineering, you need to have some maths and so on. What I suggest, though, go and talk to Peter Morgan, who runs the broadcast engineering course. see what he's got to say. I think, I'm not sure, we'd have to have a chat. We can have a chat. Catch me afterwards.
But is there something where, because you have layers of software now to make a lot of things easier, do you need a lot of that maths and engineering stuff as much as you used to do?
I would say yes, because you have to understand what it's doing. You're not just, the difference between an operator and an engineer. You could probably even teach me how to use Avid. And, I speak as someone who understands money, not editing. But to get into the guts of it and make it do what you need, I think you do still need the day in which we rely on software and AI to do everything is the day that we're lost as a species. It's like you could probably invent a machine which would wallpaper your house, but the machine can't choose the colour and the pattern of the wallpaper.
No. Or have the nice chat that you're having while you're putting up your
Drink
wallpaper.
the tea, have the biscuits.
Yeah.
Well, people are thinking, can I do a shout out to the people here and on the the recording who are currently working in the industry? If you've got kids in school or in college, and before pre-university level, talk to the school. See if you can talk to the teachers and the students about what it is the industry does.
Yeah.
They don't know.
At my daughter's school, I started a film club.
Yeah.
In her primary school. So
fantastic.
Yeah. This is your chance. Come on, guys. We're not here. You know everything
silence.
already. Oh wait, no.
Go ahead.
Hi there. My name's Ben. I've been in
Speak
industry.
up. There's a lot of background noise and we're struggling a bit.
Should know this after 15 years in the industry. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, so I've been in the industry for 15 years, looking basically corporate, trying to break into TV and film. And I'm looking for sort of mentoring and things like that, because the thing is I feel like being pigeonholed. How do I break out of that? Who do I need to speak to? And I've got very much interlinkable skills, but I don't know where to go next.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. That mid-career, like if you want to sort of shift gears or.
And I think that's the problem that I was sort of inferring is that the being able to switch genre and switch from clearly 15 years experience, you know what you're doing, but being able to then transition, and it's something that we hear time and time again. It's really hard to move over, even from sort of advertising into film, or less so film into TV now. But it is really difficult. But I think it's still going back to sort of first principles and finding the people that you want to work with or for, and the types of programming, the types of film that you want to work with and for, and try as you can to reach out to them, to network with them, to get into the places where they are, and there's lots of formal networking that happens. Screen Skills and BFI and lots of other places run sort of networking sessions. But also there are formal mentoring schemes as well. Again, Screen Skills, who is, I refer to at all times when I'm talking to students, from pre-induction all the way through to the time they leave. But they run mentoring schemes. But also, some of the things that our students have had and graduates have had success on is just targeting someone. And saying that you really would like to grab a bit of time with them, or to set your stall out and say you're looking to transition and you really enjoyed their work on a particular thing, whether that be via LinkedIn or by email or by their agent, and just trying to sort of find an entry point. But I completely sympathise with you. I think it's really, really difficult for people to, even with a wealth of experience, to make those inroads in, and I think that's something that the industry could be better at, accepting people in those middle grounds. Sort of
What area are you in? I couldn't hear. Advertising. But what bit of advertising?
Yeah. I work with companies
I loud enough to hear without the mic? So I work with like big corporates.
So in the creative,
I do the creative,
brand creative.
yeah, and I work with influencers to build brands, awareness, everything else. I just feel I'm a bit done with the whole corporate and everything else, and I'd like to actually just get on set again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I go back to I sound like a long playing record. Target an area that is a skills gap or shortage. Don't go in, I would say, saying I want to be a writer at the moment, but there is a huge need for things like script editors. So you'd be working with a writer to make their project shootable, essentially, in big strokes. But again, I would just go and have a look at Screen Skills or any of the other training things, and just all our training that's up on our website, with a few little exceptions, is totally free. So we get funded to get people to train you guys up. I would just go through all the jobs that you can see. There are amazing things called skills maps. And there's one for broadcast engineering, for example. There's one for animation. There's one for, animation might be a really interesting area to go into. VFX, production to make a film, and see if there's anything that just lights your fire. Then just check out the market isn't flooded by them. Because the other thing is, there's lots of runners and there's only one exec producer. So it's easy to get a job where there's lots of people needed than there is to get a job with the top person. But I think what I wouldn't say is go in an area that isn't a shortage and find, if you can storyboard, if you can do that sort of stuff, I don't know. But certainly animation and kids telly and stuff like that needs those sorts of people, but I'm being a bit bland about it. I'm really sorry, because I'm sure you actually,
I'd agree with all of that, and picking up particularly on Sarah's point. Find out some people whose work you admire. Contact them. It's advice I give to students, final year students all the time. You will be surprised how many people are willing to give you half an hour, and then maybe, people want to help. The other thing I suggest, not entirely 100% strongly, but various sites like Water Cooler Moments, Shooting People, carry appeals for crew mainly on short film, on quite small projects. And it may be that you could get work you've got skills. You'd be a desirable property, and build up a bit of a portfolio outside of advertising and corporate in short film, and the contacts there, and just building up a portfolio of drama work or documentary work, which you can take out.
And I think, sorry, you go.
To be completely literal about it, our industry also has marketeers and comms people. So, if actually what you want to do is move across and actually build a brand campaign, but for a broadcaster or a streamer or a particular production, we have those people as part of our teams too, that is away from the corporate and advertising world.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that you need to be really clear with yourself about what your skills are, and also how you want to use those, and then position yourself in that way. So your CV might be one from advertising, but actually you're making it easier for the person reading your CV to see how you could transition over. And I think that's really that can really take some time to do, but it's really thinking about what's the audit of your skills, what do you know? With 15 years experience, and we're saying that there's a skills gap in middle management and being able to lead teams and people being accelerated beyond their skill, really. So there's a huge amount there, and I always think it's really brave when someone it comes to us and with a career change, and it's about just making it easy for the person reading your CV to see how you're going to fit in with their team and what it is that you bring to the table, and presenting it like that. So you're not presenting your CV as you would do to get another job in your industry, but thinking about how TV and film are going to receive that and making it easy for them.
Great. that, unfortunately, is all the time we have.
Wow, that's flown by.
Yes, so thank our guests, and